So I wanted to talk about something that's a little different than probably my normal topic, but I think really important for a lot of you. And it was actually a request from Mr. Curbmeister himself, the king of curb, if you will. Not the Kirb, not Curb, not homeless curb, like sitting on the curb, Kirby. More like Kirby, like puffy Pokemon looking. Even though he's not a Pokemon, but you get the idea. Anyways, um, it's actually about your significant other. So in the chat, real quick, let me know if you have a significant other, so somebody who you date or allows you to talk to them, and maybe you live with them and eat food with them, and sometimes do things together. Okay, so we got some no's, we got some yeses. All right, cool. So yes, a lot of you guys have some stuff. Thomas, I'm sorry. But for everyone else, I'm kidding. Just you, Thomas. All right, so here's the deal. Layla and I had this realization that the number one kind of multiplier or amplifier on someone's effectiveness inside the business actually had a lot to do with what was going on outside of the business. And what's difficult for that as a business owner is that you want, or rather, I want to be able to predict how well someone does over the long haul. And so if many variables exist, many variables must be studied, right? And so that's a B.F. Skinner quote. And so if we think about your subjective well-being, so your happiness metric, the strongest correlate to that of all variables is the strength of your relationship with your significant other. Believe me, this is about making money and not being happy. That's not my shtick. So I will stay to my lane. But 0.71 correlation for your subjective well-being and your significant other. 0.71, really, really strong. Now, I do think that a significant part of that is whether your significant other helps you achieve your goals. And so the reason that this is so nasty is that I have had people who came into our companies and were what I thought were going to be stars. And then their significant other derailed them. And the reason that I think it's so insidious is that it's not done out of malice. And I think that's why it's so tricky, is that let's say you have a tough day at work and you go home and your significant other says, enough about your day. Let's talk about my day. Here's a big bowl of ice cream, or, hey, let's go out to dinner, or, hey, let's go see friends, right? All of that seems well-intentioned. The question that we have to ask ourselves is, does this increase or decrease the likelihood that I hit my goals? And I see hitting one's goals as essentially your relationship with yourself, which is why I see goal achievement as the most important thing that you can do in your life, because it's really just, do you keep your commitments to yourself? And before anyone jumps down my throat, the analogy that I would give is the very classic one, which is like when you're on an airplane, what do they say? You put your air mask on before you help others. And I think that your significant other was likely attracted to you to some degree based on your aspirations, what you want to do with your life. And what's interesting is that they will be attracted to that thing and then also be the source of that demise. They will do things and take actions that make it less likely that you achieve your goals and then complain about the fact that those goals have not been hit. And that's tough. And it's usually because they do not see that what they do hurts you. And I say hurts you not because, again, out of malice, but out of what happens, what occurs. And so this has been something I've been thinking of a lot, so much so that we are considering putting it as a part of our interview process for people coming in. And so if you look at how supportive a spouse is or your significant other, I think that it's not a binary. I see it on a continuum, right? On the absolute worst case, you have somebody who's like, you need to quit that job, you need to quit that place, whatever. Now, under the right circumstances, that could be super encouraging because they're saying you should go pursue your dreams, in which case that's amazing. And they're over here, right? But if that's the main vehicle that you have to like provide for the family and that's your dream or that's your goal, then how terrible is that? And now every time you go home, you're reminded of this, and basically talking about work is punished, which then associates a negative and aversive stimulus with the thing that you need to keep doing in order to hit the goals as a unit, which is kind of a secondary theme that I have around spouses that are on the good side of the continuum, which is that they see you and them as one. And so it's like, we are achieving this goal. We are like, I am taking these sacrifices. I am making money too, and I'm allocating some of my money so that my spouse can do what they want to do, he or she wants to do, right? And that type of unit tends to, tends to outperform the people who are kind of solo dolo, right? Like on, again, the extreme, you have somebody who actively tries to destroy. 1 degree, to the left of that is somebody who's passively destroying, which I would say is the same in terms of outcome. Like, hey, don't worry about it. Hey, kick your feet up. Hey, let's just go out this weekend. Let's not think about work. Well, it still results in the same thing, which is you work less and you don't talk about the thing that you care about. Now, if you care about your work, then it would make sense that you should be able to talk about that with the one person who matters most to you in your life, right? But if you can't, it's very lonely. And I think it makes it less likely that your goal is that you stick with it, because it no longer becomes an us thing. It's just a you thing. And then work becomes something that's a take from your relationship. Super tough, because now you have conflicting priorities. You have conflicting reinforcement contingencies. You've got the spouse that whenever you do this other thing, it's taking away from that person. And that's because of how they have framed it. And so if you can have a spouse who frames you working as you loving them, then you win, because they see you working as you feeding the unit, you feeding our goals, what we want to do with our lives, what impact we want to make as a family. And a family can still be 2 people, but nonetheless. And so on the left, right, you've got the actively destroying. Second, you've got passively destroying. And the only difference I see there is intention, not as outcome. And for me, I care very little about intention personally. Now, to the middle of that, I think you have neutral. And so these are the people that are just like, you do your thing, I do my thing, right? And I think there's kind of two flavors of this. One is you've got a spouse who has their own career or their own business, and they're just running on their path and you're running on yours, which can actually be a very successful pairing as long as you both give each other space to go pursue both of your goals, which then both of you are achieving your best version of yourselves. And then as each of you levels up, you become more and more attracted to the other person, because like your stock goes up and so does theirs. Cool. The other version of neutrality I see is that they will not detract. They will not interfere with you achieving your goals. Now, very different from supporting. They just won't get in the way. If you have to work, they say, okay. Now, they're not going to say, hey, honey, don't worry about it. I got it at home, right? Like, I got the kids, or I got the whatever's going on. Like, I got this. Go do what you got to do, right? That's supportive. Neutral is understood, right? I'll go figure out what I need to do in the meantime. And you can already guess where the next version of this is, right? Is supportive, which is not, they increase the likelihood that you hit your goals. And so I see, that's how I define support, is that they take interest and they increase the likelihood that you hit whatever goal you set out to do. And so I think many people, some of you guys right now, if you're being honest with yourselves, if you were to answer the question, does having this person in my life increase or decrease the likelihood that I hit my goals? I think some of you might have a very tough set of questions to have. 5 Reddit questions on relationship. Hold on. This thing is nasty. Have you guys seen this? This thing is just absolutely vicious. Okay. So I'm going to give you 5 questions that I think are just destructive and just nuclear bombs. Number 1, if someone tells you that you're a lot like your ex or your current, would you take that as a compliment? Think about it. Number 2, would you allow your future kid to date someone like your spouse? 3, were you able to unapologetically be yourself, or do you have to act like someone else when you are with them? 4, do you like the real them, just their good side, or the idea or potential of them? And then finally, while you are with them, are you fulfilled, or are you simply less lonely? And so I think if you can think through those are tough questions to answer. And I'll be clear here. I think that every day, like sometimes there are moments where a relationship can get in the rocks. But I think what's interesting about this set of questions is that they zoom out a lot. It's, would you want your kid to date someone like this? Like if someone describes you like them, would you take it as a compliment? That's usually going to take it to like their character, right? The behavior traits they do on a regular basis, right? Do you like the real them or the idea of them? Are you fulfilled or just lonely, right? These are, I think, really good questions when we're thinking about this, because I've been fortunate with Layla, and I by no means do I stand here on a pedestal. I want to be very clear here. But she has made it more likely that I hit my goals. And fundamentally, the reason that I ended up marrying her was from that frame. And we actually got married. I probably won't go too much more into this because I don't like talking about relationships very much. But I had a you call it a mindset coach. I think his technical term was an executive coach. I had an executive coach when I was like 26 or 7. And it was before Layla and I got married. And I said, I don't know if I want to be with this girl. It's not like we have this like chemical fireworky chemistry, relationship. But like, I think she's really cool and I like her a lot and I like being around her and I feel like I'm better when I'm with her. And he said, well, look at your stats. And so he went category by category. So he's like, how about fitness? Are you working out? And I was like, yeah, she goes to the gym. And so I, basically if I don't want to go, I'll still go with her. And he was like, okay, so you're working out more than you were on your own. I was like, yeah. He's like, okay. He's like, what about food? Are you eating healthier? And I was like, yeah, she's actually, she did a year of culinary school. She likes, cooking for me. She likes baking. She likes doing all that stuff. And, but she's like in fitness. So she knows how to make like the kind of stuff that I want to eat. And he was like, that's great. Cool. He's like, okay, what about financially? He's like, does she spend a lot of money? I was like, no, actually she makes me money. Like she not only doesn't spend money, she makes me money and she helps me go make more money because she handles things that I would normally have to do so that I can go sell more. And he was like, okay. And so we just keep going down this list and basically all my stats were up. And so that conversation was one of probably 3 moments in my life with Layla that I was like, huh, what if I use the frame of like, does this person help me become the person I want to be rather than do I have the butterfly tingles and fireworks, which is basically the litmus test that I used for every other relationship that I'd been in my life. And I can tell you that now we've been together 8.5 years, something like that. And I think logic prevails. So I'll explain what I mean by that. Is like, if you are together based on pure emotion, then it means that when the emotions change, you don't want to be together. For us, we have had a logical foundation for why it made sense for me because my goals have not changed. My goals have remained more or less the same since I got into business, since I've been almost like in high school. I've wanted to just be successful, grow, make more, be more, right? And at all points in time, no matter how angry, upset, whatever I can be, I have not met anyone who has helped me more than she has. And so in becoming the person I want to become and achieving the things that I want to achieve. And the very first date that we went on, I told her, I'm going to work all the time. And so this will only work if you can spend time with me while I work. And so I think our second date was like a daytime date. I was like, the day after we went on our first date, I was like, you want to hang out tomorrow? I was like, I'm just going to be working at my place all day. And she said, sure. She said, I've training clients in the morning and I'll come hang out after lunch. And I said, fine. And so we just worked the rest of the day. And the next day I also worked. And so then she came over and we worked there. And we pretty much spent every single day after that together with no date. So much so that I left and did a launch and came back and she said, you said you would take me on a date. It's been a month. I'd spent 30 days in a row with her, had not taken her on a date, had just worked next to her. And so to me, very much like, this is me. This is my life. If you want in on this, then great. But like, I'm not going to change this. And I think we look at people in our lives and we ask ourselves, am I willing to make compromises? And I just have not been willing to compromise my goals. And in every situation where I was forced to compromise my goals or feel like it was a tit for tat, we're like, oh, okay, we talked about your day, let's talk about my day. Okay, fine. Let's support both of our careers, whatever it is. When those things, I always felt like I was like, compromise is just both people not getting what they want. Like fundamentally. And so I would rather find a way where we can just both get what we want. And the nice thing is that there's a lot of humans. And I think that it's kind of like mediocre employees where like the dangerous ones, Frank Slootman talked about this. He's like a serial multi-billion-dollar CEO. And I've read a lot of stuff. I haven't read his book, but he said the thing that will destroy your company is B players, not C players. C players are obvious and everyone's happy to kick them out. A players are winners. He said it's the B players. They're good enough to not get fired, and they're really just along for the ride. And I think many people, myself included, have been stuck in B relationships with B players for extended periods of time. And maybe they don't, like, now maybe they don't have negative intentions. But when we ask the question, does it make it more likely that I hit my goals with this person in my life? Is it more likely that I become the person that I want to become? Am I better as a result? If I had them rub off on me, do I see that as a compliment? Do I see that as a pro? And I think many of you guys want to succeed here. And I think many of you have a shackle around both of your feet and you're trying to run a marathon. And you're wondering why you can't run as fast as other people, but you're carrying this weight behind you, making it virtually impossible to run and compete. And so I know this one isn't as tactical as what I normally talk about, but it's kind of one of those big picture things that the reason that Layla and I brought it up is that when we looked at the people who've come into our company, and then we only measured them based on the relationship and support they have with their spouse, it was 100%. And that was why it was so freaky to me. Like we just went through couple after couple after couple after couple, and we could predict where they would end up. And what was interesting is that it didn't have a ton to do with where they started. So some people who were lower in the organization and had all in spouses who were like, would wear gym launch gear, wear acquisition.com gear, even though they don't work at the company, they're like, whatever they need to do. And I've seen this on the husband side and the wife side, right? Like those people disproportionately performed compared to the opposite, where you have a star who comes in, but then you meet the spouse, you meet the significant other, and it's like, ooh, yeah, that's an out point. That's going to be a problem. And here's the thing, is that that person doesn't make you a worse runner. It just means that you have to use up so much of your energy on something that doesn't propel you forward. And so like, if you've got this weight around your ankle, you still have to be strong to run the race, arguably stronger just to compete as a normal person. But the idea is that you're wasting a huge amount of your potential just managing this relationship so that you can do what you want to do with your life. And I think this has just been just a theme. And even, I've met some of the school day winners and things like that. And I get, questions during the lunch and people are just asking more personal stuff. And I just see it as this theme. And if you're like, hey, I'm in a B relationship, I do think I just have somebody who's along for the ride. If you want to not be a coward, let them go for two reasons. One, because of what it says about you, and the other is for what it does for them. One is you are a coward for being afraid of being alone rather than wanting what you believe you deserve. It's settling. And you will always know at the end of the night when you're in bed and you're looking up at the stars or the dark ceiling, and you'll know when they're asleep whether or not you feel like you are equally yoked. Do you feel like you are with someone who makes you who you want to be? The second piece is that if you truly care about this person, which you claim to, I'm betting, then do you think it's fair to them that if they knew what you felt about them being a B player, that they would still want to be in a relationship with you? And don't you feel like you owe it to them to give them a chance to find somebody who does think that they're an A player for them? And to be very clear, I don't think that these are actually intrinsic to the person. I think that dynamics between two people are very unique. Like, I think I've had relationships in the past that were wonderful people, and I still hope the absolute best for them. I just wasn't the right person for them, and that's okay. And so I think that we need to raise the bar on ourselves and be kind, not nice. Like, being kind is maximizing the benefit of the other person, not supporting their feelings and getting agreement in the short term. It's very easy to get agreement. You just basically do whatever they say. But if you think that it's in their best interest that somebody else would love them better than you, then I think you owe it to them. I also think you owe it to yourself. And so it's just been this thing it was top of mind, and Kirby wanted me to bring it up because I think a lot of you are in this boat. I mean, I talk to you guys, and I get what I call trade-off questions, which is like, hey, so how do I get my girlfriend to be into my work? It's never going to happen. Layla and I talked about business the first date for 4 hours. All she cared about was fitness marketing. When we talked, it's literally what we talked about. I talked about ads, funnels, offers, and conversion processes. That was our entire first date. We didn't talk about kids. We didn't talk about anything. We just talked about that. And so it felt like it was just a business meeting. And I was like, well, that was fun. I was like, I didn't have to pretend to talk about something that I didn't care about. I was like, this was wonderful for me, right? Instead of having to pretend for an hour over, froyo, that I give a shit about whatever you're doing, right? Much better. And so, right. So if you're in that trade-off, like, you're not going to, it's very unlikely, right? Unless you can create some sort of rewarding stimulus that gets them to be addicted to work. Difficult, not impossible, but very difficult. Second to that, you get the trade-offs of like, okay, well, I want to spend time with my kids. I want to spend time with my wife. How do I balance that with work? You balance it. And that's fine. It's just understanding that you're going to make trades. Like if you worked every hour of every day, you'll probably do better than if you didn't. And that's okay. Because also it's relative to you, not relative to everyone. So Jeff Bezos was married and had kids and then grew Amazon. Like many of the richest people in the world are married and have lots of kids. So maybe they could have been even more successful if they didn't, but do they care? Right? And so I don't think so. Like, one, you can make trade-offs. Two, does it matter? Would you go as fast as you could if you spent all your time? No. Is it a trade-off you're willing to make? Probably. And I think that's fine. And so I think a lot of people get in these trade-off questions, but where I think you get into issues is where you're making the trade, but you're not getting either. You're trading your goals and you're not getting the fulfillment. You're not getting the person that makes you better. You're not getting the person that you would feel like a compliment if someone were to describe you like them. You're being with the person that you wouldn't want your kid to date. You're being with the person that only is there to keep you less lonely, but in no way makes you fulfilled. And I think that's where you get the worst of both. And that's where compromise means you just get neither person gets what they want. And so I think some of you guys may have a hard conversation or two. And sometimes it could just be the simple conversation of being like, hey, I would like it if you increase the likelihood to hit my goals. The way that you do that is in these 3 behaviors. And instead of this, do this. So if you want to give feedback, don't tell people to not do stuff. Tell them what to do instead. So under this condition, change your behavior in this way. It would help me. So when I come home and I say I'm stressed about work, I don't want you to tell me that work isn't cool. I want you to just listen, or I want you to help me solve it. But tell them what you want, and then they can behave in the way according to that. And so in a lot of ways, you can make that person who's neutral into supportive because maybe and very likely they do want to support you, but they just don't know how. And so if you haven't communicated that, then you absolutely you don't need to do any of the stuff that I talked about if you haven't even done 101, right? Which is tell them. But if you have told them and it's not of interest to them, then I think you have to look at other options. If you want, you can obviously just be dissatisfied and just be in an empty relationship for the rest of your life. So that's obviously something too, and you can just not achieve your goals. So always a path, and a path that many people often take. And so, anyways, this was a top of mind topic that Curb Diggity Dog wanted me to curb stomp, if you will, for you guys in the most violently loving manner I could. But listen, guys. Your dedication to your dreams is your dedication to yourself. And I think that learning and becoming the best version of ourselves, at least for me, is kind of the purpose of living. And so if that is at least part of your life's purpose, then I think having somebody who supports that goal rather than someone who is neutral or detracts from it is probably a good thing. Cool. Let's talk about very tactical business questions that have nothing to do with that topic. Yes, Elaine. Kirby wanted me to talk about it. He probably is in the middle of a love triangle right now, trying to figure out which UK or Costa Rican love affair he's going to pursue. This is a Cybertruck. This is 100 grand. And somebody watching this video right now is going to win one of those two in the next 30 days. In fact, last month, Keytron won. Which one did you win?
Cybertruck.
Was it worth it?
Yeah, sure.
And he did it by building a community that helped people fix their credits and got to $132,000 in his first try. And listen, that was amazing for Keytron, but let me tell you about the other top 10 people that were here with me. And so here they are on the leaderboard, and here they are in real person. And so Adnan got to 27,000, Benit 40,000, Ryan got to 44, Ted got to 48, Max 40, Anthony 101, Javon, Salah, Kevin 123, Bank 48, Devin 37. And so listen, I could keep talking about this, but you might be wondering, what's Skool? How does it work? Well, let me explain. So Skool is an online platform for building a group online about whatever you want. It's easy, and sure, everyone says that, but how easy? Well, right now, 1 out of 2 people who start a community online make money. Yes, 54.1%. And the reason that we have such a high success rate is because we spent hundreds of hours studying thousands of successful groups to figure out exactly what they did to make money. And then we broke it down into a step-by-step recipe for making money. Doesn't that smell good? And so we bulleted into do this X times per day and do this Y times per week. And it works. It works so well that right now the average paid community makes $1,360 per month in recurring revenue, which is pretty sweet. So no, it won't make you into a billionaire, but it will help you get started. And you can keep scaling all the way up like the 10 people that I was just showing you earlier. And on top of that, we built everything that you need to run a paid group on Skool already. So no, you won't need to start a Stripe account. No, you won't need to build a website. No, you won't need to have any inventory. And you won't have to hire anyone new. No thanks, guys. We're good. Skool works out of the box. Ta-da! It's that easy. We built it that works the same way as social media, so you don't need to learn anything new. All right, there's not even a single piece of technology that you figure out. You just log in and you can collect money in minutes, literally. And if you're just starting out, here's you. You're literally who we built Skool for. So remember those crazy people that I showed you over there? Say hello. Hey. They did this last month, and if they can do it, so can you. This is built for people who are brand new to business or brand new to online business. And if you're wondering, well, do I need to have an audience? No, half of those guys didn't have an organic audience. And these guys are the winners. So no, we'll show you where and how people are getting their first customers absolutely free. Follow me. Listen, if you don't believe me, think about it like this. If we get 1 out of 2 paid communities to make money, most people don't have organic audiences. So we had to figure it out or no one would stay on Skool, but we have. And that's why we have tens of thousands of groups on Skool right now. And as much as I'd like to think people love me, people stay because they make money. And we'll show you exactly how they did it. And also, just to make sure you don't get stuck on any step, I answer questions every single week. I hop on calls. And so if you want to hop on there live, we usually have 200 or 300 people who hop on those calls. So it's not huge. And so now's the best time to get started. So if that sounds at all interesting, the best part is you can start a community of your own absolutely free. Just click the yellow button below this video, enter your details to start your absolutely free trial. Worst case, start for free, you decide to quit, and then you can take all the training that other people charge thousands of dollars for with you for free. Again, that's the worst case. Best case, you take a zero risk move and build an online business that could change your life forever. And to be clear, I'm not asking you to decide yes or no today. I'm asking you to make an informed decision. That's it. And the only way you can do that is on the inside, not on the outside. So get inside and see if everything that we say is true and valuable to you. Then if it is, in 2 weeks is when you can actually decide for real. And if you get in and decide it's not for you, no sweat. But you can't truly make an informed decision right now for the same reason you don't buy a house without looking inside of it first, or test drive a car before buying it. So this is a guaranteed risk-free test drive. And listen, whether it's 13 minutes or 13 days from now, if you decide that it's not for you for any reason whatsoever, all you have to do is go to your profile and click cancel. That's it, 1 click. And the only reason you can make an offer that strong is because you're confident that what you have is the real deal. And I'm fairly confident that when you sign up by hitting the button below, you're getting exactly what you need to start your online business. So you might as well give it a shot. The only other guarantee is that if you don't take this shot, you'll stay right where you are right now. But if you take action, you could be the next one coming out to Vegas celebrating how quickly you built an online business with consistent monthly recurring revenue and driving away in a Cybertruck or with 100 grand in cash in your pocket. Pretty neat. So click the button below, join us in the Skool Games. I take calls every Monday, hop on and be sure to let me know you're new. I'll see you on the other side.